Good evening, friends. I am Dr. Rasik Shah, Senior Pediatric Surgeon at SRCC Children's Hospital managed by Narayan Health. I am going to tell you about urinary infection in children, focusing on the surgical aspects. First of all, I think all of you will like to know what is urinary infection. Now, any infection in the urinary tract will be known as a urinary infection. If I have to show you, we have kidneys right and left, which is joined by ureter to the bladder, and then we have urethra. The same thing you can see in a male patient or boys. So we have the urethra which is coming out like this, and in girls it's a short urethra, the kidney, ureter, bladder and the urethra. So infection in any of this is known as urinary infection. Now the second question is how the infection will reach to urinary tract. So there are two ways the infection can reach to the urinary tract. The commonest way is from the below, from the anus. When the person passes the stool, the infection can ascend via urethra into the bladder, and then it can go up to the kidney. So that is one way of getting an infection. The second way is via the bloodstream. It reaches the kidney and then it gets infected. So these are the two ways the infection will reach. Generally, the organism which creates the infection is from the gastrointestinal tract. The third is how will you diagnose, or you will come to know whether the person has developed the infection. So infection, as I told you, can be in the kidney, it can be in the bladder, it can be in the urethra, and depending upon the site of the infection, the person will have the symptoms. So if it is in the kidney, the person will have fever, which may be high grade, 102, 103 degree Fahrenheit. Along with that, there may be nausea, vomiting and abdominal pain, particularly on the back side. So that will suggest that the patient may have developed the infection in the kidney, and scientifically we call it as a pyelonephritis. And then if the infection is in the bladder, we call it as a cystitis, and the person will have frequent passage of urine. There will be pain in the lower part of the abdomen around the pubic area. There will be urge of passing urine, and then they can have burning while passing urine. There can be cloudy urine, there can be smell in the urine. All this is suggestive of infection of the bladder. And sometimes if there is a urethritis, there will be discharge of the purulent fluid from the urinary meatus. So all this will be suggestive of the urinary infection. Now, as I told you earlier, that in girls they are more likely to have infection because of the short urethra. So then the next question is, who are likely to develop the urinary infection in generally? So what we say is, if any person has any underlying anomalies with the urinary tract, they are likely to have infection. If they are immunosuppressed, then they can have infection. Immunosuppression, even diabetes can give rise to infection. Then if there are any procedures or surgeries done along the urinary tract, or if they have any catheter insertion in the urinary bladder, they are likely to develop infection. What are the complications, and when you will say that this urinary infection is significant? So once the person has urinary infection, then whether to investigate further or not, that is a query. So any child who has fever and suggestion of that he has urinary infection, first is we get the urine routine microscopy done. Now there are several ways you can collect the urine sample. One is the standard clean catch midstream sample, and you send it. There are other ways which can collect the urine by insertion of the catheter, by doing suprapubic puncture, or putting a U-train or condom, so that we get the sample from the person. Now the clean catch can be done in an older child. In a younger child or infant, we have to use other modes of the collection of the urine. Once the urine is collected, we send it for routine checkup and if required culture also. In routine, we look for the pulses. If there are more than 10 pulses per high power field, it is significant, or if it is nitrite positive or leukocyte esterase positive, then they have become a significant infection in the urine. Sometimes they may have even blood in the urine. So all this is suggestive of infection, and then the person may need further investigation depending upon other factors. So in a male child, if they develop the first episode of infection, it should be investigated. In a newborn, if they have urinary infection, again one should investigate. If the child develops pyelonephritis, again it is better to investigate. So these are the suggestion where there may be some underlying problem, and if we do not investigate, we will not be able to detect that. In a girls, the first episode of infection we may not investigate, but if they develop recurrent urinary infection, more than 2 episodes, then it is significant and one should investigate. So we know now when to investigate urinary infection. We know how to investigate. The first is urine test, routine and culture, and then depending upon other factors we will decide the rest of the investigations, which will include sonography of kidney, kidney, bladder, or what we call is a KUB, sonography, KUB, micturating cystourethrogram or voiding cystourethrogram. Then we do either CT or MRI in some patients, not in many, and we do nuclear test or nuclear renogram, which can be either DMSA or EC renal scan. So depending upon the type of anomaly we have, we will decide what kind of investigations are required. Now, once the child has urinary infection detected, we will do minimum is urine examination, which is followed by sonography. On sonography, we can have different type of anomalies which can be detected, and depending upon that we will do further investigation. I will discuss this part little later, but before that, how can we prevent urinary infection? What are the criteria, or how we can avoid the urinary infection in any child? So drinking lot of water is very important during the day. The second important is cleaning of girl child should be from front to back, so the bacteria from the stool do not come to the urethra and infect the child. Keeping that area clean and dry is again very important. So if the kid is in diaper, then it is better that as soon as the child passes stool, it should be clean. If it remains unclean, then the chances of developing infection will increase. Using cotton underwear is better than nylon. All genitals, preferably one should not do lot of powdering of that area, because it may irritate and give rise to problem. If there is any infection, fungal infection, it should be treated early. So these are the ways we can prevent the urinary infection. Now, as I told you, depending upon the anomaly, we will do investigations and treat accordingly. So we will take both the things together now. So once we have diagnosed by doing urine routine, microscopy and culture that the person or the child is having urinary infection, then one should start medical line of treatment, which includes antibiotics at a proper dose and for the proper time. So the proper time would be anywhere between 3 to 10 days depending upon how bad is the infection, and generally broad spectrum antibiotics are started, and for that you need to get in touch with the doctor. Along with these antibiotics, the child should take lot of fluids orally, and some extra medications are given. So these are the different kinds of the urinary anomalies which we get in a children, which can predispose any child for urinary infection. So this is a PUJ obstruction of pelvis and ureter where it joins. This is the kidney. Then this is the bladder, which is normal, and this is a thick wall bladder which is because of the neurogenic bladder. Here if you see, there are two parts of the kidney, also known as the duplex kidney, and there are two ureters which are going down. So generally what happens, the ureter which opens lower down in the bladder goes to the upper part of the kidney, and it can be obstruction there. So in a duplex there are two problems. The upper moiety ureter may be swollen because of the obstruction, and the lower ureter can have reflux, which is known as vesico-ureteric reflux or VUR. And if you see here again, you can see swelling of the left side of the ureter as compared to right. It is known as megaureter, which can be because of either reflux of the urine from bladder to the kidney or obstruction over here. And then we can have obstruction in the urethra and any problem in the urethra. So this is posterior urethral valve, and this is any anomaly in the urethra can give rise to anomalies. Now we will discuss in short about each condition. So this is PUJ obstruction. Now as I told you, the obstruction is with the pelvis and ureter. So when we do investigations on sonography, what we say is a size of the kidney, especially the pelvis, the AP diameter. If it is significant, which is more than 1 centimeter is significant in a newborn, then they will need further investigation in the form of nuclear scan, either EC or DTPA renogram. And if that is suggestive of obstruction, then this child will need pyeloplasty. And today we perform using keyhole surgery or laparoscopic surgery. And the results of this surgery are more than 98%. They do alright. Second condition is the megaureter. Megaureter can be because of either obstruction at the lower end of the ureter where it joins with the bladder, or because of the reflux. Now many of these patients will need surgery, especially if there is an obstruction, they will need ureteral reimplant. If the reflux is grade 4-5, then again they will need ureteral reimplant. If it is mild grade reflux, which is grade 1, 2, 3, means little bit of urine going back, then you can treat it conservatively using low dose antibiotics. And as the child grows, then the reflux may subside in some of the patient. We used to do open surgery in past. Now the same surgery can be done using vasicoscopic surgery or vasicoscopic ureteral reimplant, where we make a small holes in the bladder and do the surgery transvasically using keyhole surgery. Same surgery can be done laparoscopically by doing extravesical reimplant. So these are the two ways one can take care of the ureteric reimplant. The third condition which we said was the duplex system. So in that they can have obstruction of the upper part of the kidney and ureter where it joins because it's open ectopically. And if it is single moiety which is affected, then they may need to be repaired. But usually the lower moiety has a reflux, so we do either common sheath reimplant provided both the part of the kidneys are functioning. If both kidneys are not functioning, means one part of the kidney is not functioning, then we may have to do that excision of that part, or the condition or surgery known as heminephrectomy. Occasionally what we do is ureteral anastomosis. So we join one ureter with another depending upon which ureter opening is normal. If both ureteric openings are not normal, then we do common sheath reimplant. Then the another condition which is known as is a posterior urethral valve. So this is bladder, similarly this is also bladder, and from here the urethra is starting. So this typically occurs only in male child. There is an obstruction of the urethra known as posterior urethral valve, and in this condition many times they will have bilateral hydroureteronephrosis on sonography, and if we do micturating cystourethrogram, we will see obstruction over here. Similarly, when I said micturating cystourethrogram, when I do it in presence of vesico-ureteric reflux, the dye or contrast will go up into the kidney. So that is how we diagnose VUR or vesico-ureteric reflux. And when I do MCU, it can detect in some patient posterior urethral valve, and in some patient if there is any obstruction in the anterior urethra, it can be detected. So VCUG or MCUG, micturating cystourethrogram, will delineate bladder, any diverticulum in the bladder, reflux, and any obstruction in the urethra. If there is an obstruction in the urethra like posterior urethral valve or anterior urethral valve or stricture, then one can do cystourethroskopy and divide the valve, incise the valve using either electric current or knife, and usually they do all right with that surgery provided the kidneys are functioning fine. The another condition which I discussed earlier was that in some patient there is a thickened bladder. This is a normal bladder, this is a thickened bladder. Once the bladder is thickened, generally it is because of there is a sort of obstruction to the urethra which is not mechanical, but it is neurogenic component, and the bladder is not very well innervated, bladder as well as the sphincter. So when the bladder contracts to pass urine, the even sphincter contracts, so that person is not able to pass urine, and this condition is known as neurogenic bladder. If they have neurogenic bladder, bladder is small volume and thick muscles are there, and because of that they can have hydroureteronephrosis. Hydroureteronephrosis meaning the swelling of the ureter, swelling of the kidney. And in this patient we will need lot of investigations like what we discussed earlier, MCU, sonography, then nuclear scans, and they will need even urodynamics, and depending upon the findings of urodynamics, further tests are required. So all these tests are done as per the condition and they are treated according to the condition. And in most of the patient, if we treat them well, they do all right after surgery. So we have already discussed about all these different kind of urinary tract anomalies, how to manage them. Now these are the common anomalies. Apart from that, there are many other anomalies which can be there, and according to that one needs to investigate. Now suppose you don't have any anomaly. We did sonography which was normal, we did MCU, it was normal, but child still had urinary infection. And in this patient what we do is, in a particularly this what I am saying, in the boys, if they get urinary infection and investigations are normal, then they should undergo circumcision. Once they have circumcision, the chances of getting urinary infection again are much lower, and that is what is advocated. So friends, this is the surgical aspects of urinary infection we have discussed today. So you can't take lightly, because if we don't treat urinary infection, the infection, when it goes to the kidney, it will damage some part of the kidney, and whenever there is a kidney damage, if it is recurrent, this patient can have chronic renal failure, and that can end into transplant. So you don't want to delay taking care of urinary infection. Whenever there is urinary infection, get in touch with the pediatrician, pediatric surgeon or nephrologist and get it treated. Thank you.